Hi, and welcome to Check Your Thread, a podcast about sewing more sustainably. My name's Zoe, and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 13 years and am the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me on this journey. Hello, lovely listeners, aka Check Your Thread heads. How are you doing? I'm almost completely well again, although not enjoying the return to chilly, windy and rainy weather. I know, I get it. It's what spring is meant to be all about, and the gardens need the rain and everything. I'm just fed up of being freezing, you know. Anyway, how's your making been going since the last episode? I finished up my hopefully wearable toile of the Vanazza two-piece swimsuit, which I mentioned in this week's episode, in fact. And it fits surprisingly well. I really jumped around with the sizes. I made a small for the top and a medium for the bottom and graded those out to a large at the waist. My only concern is that the top doesn't feel super secure. I'm really happy with the bottoms though. They've ended up just as I'd hoped. For this project, I used some swimsuit lycra that's been in my stash for donkey's years, plus some synthetic mesh stuff that I scored at the recent fabric swap that I'm using for the lining. I'm going to wear it at the swimming pool in a week's time, so I'll be able to report back. Having now made my daughter her three-piece swimming cosy set and my two-piece, you'd think that I'd be over making swimwear for a while. But no, I've kind of got the bug now. So next up is a pair of swim shorties for my little boy that I've just cut out. I've harvested some anchor print swimwear lycra from a thrifted child's swimming cosy. That's been in my stash for about 6 years. I bought it for my daughter, but it turns out that the elastic had completely perished, so it was no good in its original form. I'm also using some leftover solid navy lycra and scraps of navy swimwear lining left over from my bombshell swimsuit that I made several years ago. So how have your sustainability goals been going? Mine have been largely focused on gardening this week. I made the decision to broaden the range of things I'm growing in my garden, and I ended up buying some raspberry canes and a rhubarb plant. Those probably won't produce anything to eat this year, so I'm kind of paying myself forward with those. I've also decided to try brassicas and make one of those cages with mesh that protects plants from butterflies laying their eggs. Caterpillars did a lot of damage to my garden last year, so I'm taking the threat very seriously. I also decided on a whim to try growing potatoes when I found a few left over from my veg box had sprouted. I have no idea if it will work, but it's worth a try. And of course I'm growing tons of seedlings in old yogurt pots and meat trays and juice cartons on all the window ledges over my house. Exciting times! I also attended the sustainability event I mentioned last week. My colleague Naomi and I did a spot of mending and shared some skills and hopefully inspired a few people to think about textiles and damaged garments in a different light. This week, I'd like to thank two wonderful new patrons of the podcast, Rachel and Zita. Many thanks to both of you for stepping up to support the podcast. If you'd like to help keep things afloat around these parts, I'd be very grateful. Check out the Patreon link in the show notes or on the website checkyourthread.com. I promise it's quick and simple to sign up. Right, so on to today's episode. We are jumping into the second episode of the Me Made May mini-series. Plus, it's the first of 2 episodes designed to help you make the most of your challenge. I'm doing that by providing inspiration for the specifics of your personal pledge. We'll also hear from 2 previous podcast guests and Me Made May participants. Rebecca Evans-Merritt tells us about how she uses Me Made May as a catalyst to focus on making something she already knows will benefit her wardrobe, but that she hasn't previously got round to making. She also tells us how she fell foul of setting a pledge that was too challenging the first time she participated. And we have a little reminisce about Me Made May in 2020 during lockdown. She also discusses her thoughts on the representation of makers of colour in the online sewing community and how she started to post more photos of herself as a reaction to the Black Lives Matter movement. Following that, we hear from Meg Grandstaff, the mending expert from Community Glue Workshops, the repair initiative in Chicago. Meg tells us about the benefit of living somewhere with wildly fluctuating weather during May, and therefore how she is able to access most of her wardrobe during the challenge. We talk about finding your power outfit, her long-term sewing plan strategy, and looking back at the documentation from previous challenges to see what gets worn year after year and how. Plus, she gives amazing advice for participants who are very new to garment making and how they can work with what they've got to learn and have fun. Show notes this week consist of the main points about creating your pledge, plus links of where to find Meg and Rebecca. Enjoy! Hopefully, you will have already had a listen of the most recent podcast episode about Me Made May. It went into what the Me Made May challenge is, what it isn't, who it's for, and how to participate. This week and next week's episodes are also about Me Made May. So why am I banging on about Me Made May so much? Because I honestly believe that taking part can really help us get closer to the wardrobes we want and teach us so much about ourselves and what we really need. In fact, I don't just believe it, I know it. This challenge is in its 13th year now, and I've received hundreds and hundreds of messages, emails and comments over the previous 12 years from participants telling me the numerous ways it has benefited them. So yes, I probably am a bit evangelical about it, but I know that if you choose your pledge carefully with specifics that are challenging but doable for you, that you will learn fantastic, useful lessons that may change your making forever. I can't predict what you'll learn, of course, but here's some examples of what people have reported over the years. Many participants are able to work out which of their handmade items feel good, their power outfits if you will, and which don't. And when they figure out what it is that's wrong with the latter, they can avoid making those pitfalls in future makes. Lots of participants discover what colours work best for their complexions and what styles and silhouettes work better for their bodies and their lifestyles. Others work out what types of items they really don't need any more of, and what items are missing that would help their wardrobes feel more complete and work better as a collection. Others have found that a month of focusing on what they wear allows them to present themselves to the world in a way that feels more authentic and truly representative of themselves. By focusing on what you've got rather than always what the next project will be, participants find a new love and appreciation for some of their older makes. So many people figure out how to wear their self-made items in different outfit combinations. This helps them get more use from each item throughout the rest of the year as well. And I'd say that most people come away with a sense of pride in their handmade items and in their own skills. So unless you're in the enviable position of currently having the relationship that you want with your wardrobe, hopefully I've convinced you, if you were on the fence, to participate this year. And as we emphasised in last week's episode, Me Made May is an individual challenge in which you choose the specifics for yourself. Everyone's wardrobes, lives and goals are different, so it doesn't make sense to all follow the same rules. So what should your specifics or rules be? Maybe you've already got a good idea, or maybe you need some inspiration. That's what we're going to cover today and next week. I've also had some conversations with previous podcast guests about their experiences of the challenge to get some interesting insights into how other people have approached Me Made May in previous years and what they took away from it. In this episode, we'll hear from Rebecca Evans-Merritt and Meg Grandstaff. And next week, we'll get some insights from Amy Dice and Judith Staley. Right, let's get into it. So to pick a useful challenge for you, the first step is to get a handle on how your relationship with your wardrobe currently stands. If you can find the time, a very useful exercise is to get all your self-made items out and have a good look at what you've got. Remember, your definition of self-made could include upcycled or refashioned items, or items that have been mended or altered in some way as well if you wish to. Unless you are very new to garment making, it's very possible that you'll find that you have more than you thought. It's also very possible that there are a number of items that you haven't reached for in a while. Also, have a think about how often you tend to wear handmade items already, and which ones see the most action. Think back to what you wore the past week if you can remember. How many items were made by yourself? By looking at what you've got and by thinking about what you usually wear already, you'll get some clues for a suitable pledge. There may also be a sticking point that you're already well aware of. For example, you may feel happiest in a dress, but you rarely wear them. Or you may have a whole load of clothes made from vibrant prints, but you're not sure how to incorporate them into an outfit. Remember, the main point of the challenge is to wear your handmade items more and/or in different ways. So with that in mind, hopefully you will start to get some ideas for a pledge that will push yourself slightly out of your comfort zone to allow yourself to learn and grow. An example, about 10 years ago, my wardrobe was going through quite a rockabilly phase. I'd made loads of dresses and skirts, but I rarely wore them. There was this big disconnect between what I was making and what I actually wore day to day. I wanted to see if I could use Me Made May to bring those two versions of me closer together. That year, I pledged to wear my Me Mades as I had done in previous years. However, I had to wear a dress or skirt 4 days a week. The goal there was to see if I could normalise dress and skirt wearing for myself, perhaps discover some new outfit combos that would make it easier to choose those items in the mornings. Well, long story short, that challenge taught me that I just couldn't feel comfortable in dresses and skirts during my day-to-day life, or at least the types that I was making at the time. I had some nice ones for going out, and that was really all I needed. So I stopped wasting my sewing time making dresses and skirts, and instead I concentrated on making other stuff that I did enjoy wearing at the time that had a similar rockabilly retro vibe, like capri pants and wide leg palazzo pants. Some other examples of pledges that might inspire you. If you tend to only wear your very newest makes, you could pledge to wear an item that's over a year old every other day. Or if you have lots of me-mades, one item over a year old in each daily outfit. If you have lots of handmade items that you don't feel comfortable in, pledge to at least try on, if not actually wear all day, all the lesser worn items during the month. Then write down what it is that's wrong with them or what you don't like about them. From that, you can make a plan. Will you alter or refit the item, pass it on to someone else who'll wear it as it is, or harvest the fabric and trims for another project? If you have a clear idea of what your most regularly worn self-made items are, pledge to wear those in a different outfit combination each time you put them on. You could pledge to include one of your very favourite colours in your outfit each day, or pledge to incorporate an element of layering as often as you can, or pledge to wear handmade items slightly more often than you already do, but make a note of which fabric type you enjoyed wearing the most at the end of each day. So there's some ideas for selecting a pledge that might be useful for you. If you haven't worked out what your pledge is yet, give it some thought. And if you're still not sure, I'll talk next week about the most simple of pledges that will still give you ample opportunity to learn from. Okay, enough from me. Let's hear from previous podcast guest and previous Me Made May participant, Rebecca Evans-Merritt. Me Made May is just around the corner, and you have very generously said that you will come and chat with me briefly about the aforementioned challenge. Do you remember when you first heard about Me Made May?
I was trying to think, and I remember listening to you on the Love to Sew podcast. So that was I looked back and it was like 2018. But
wow, was it that long ago?
I know. But I remember when I listened to it, I definitely already knew about Me Made May.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say in 2018, it kind of was like, oh, okay, cool. Started to kind of think about it. But then it wasn't till 2019 that I first took my first steps.
Can you remember what your pledge was?
It was probably to wear more Me Mades. And also just to focus a bit more on making and be a bit more structured.
Right.
That was it. I think that first one I actually made washable pads, which was also inspired by you because I'd seen that you'd use that specific lunar wolf pattern, and I was like, okay, this is a project I can do in Me Made May.
Awesome. So you used it as a kind of impetus to fulfill a plan you'd had previously, to kind of take your Me Mades to the next level.
Exactly.
So did you find it easy or difficult to fulfill your challenge?
I think I found it quite difficult that first year. And I think it was because at that time, my wardrobe wasn't a big percentage Me Made. So I think I kind of started out, I'm doing this. And then it kind of fizzled out.
Maybe your pledge was a little bit too difficult then.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's easy, isn't it? For people that want to take part and they kind of go, right, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to wear everything and it's going to be amazing. And then you're like, day 3, I haven't done laundry and maybe my pledge was a bit too difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Yeah, you've got to pick something that's realistic for you.
Yeah. Did you take part in the kind of community aspect? Did you choose to document your challenge with photos or did you just choose to kind of do it behind the scenes?
So I think that first year, because I'd only just set up my making Instagram. Before that, I just had a personal Instagram, but I didn't really post much about making on it. Yeah, 2019, I just set up my Instagram properly because I was quite new to it. I wasn't really doing outfit posts or anything like that. I did post the things that I made in that month. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't post any outfit photos at all. I was still oh no, I don't want to post myself on the internet.
Which you don't have to at all. It's entirely, I was just wondering if that was an aspect of the challenge for you.
Yeah. I think in those early days, it was definitely something I kind of shied away from. But having listened to you on that podcast before, I did understand that it wasn't it's not like a photo challenge. It's not, that's not what it's about.
So you took part that first year, was a bit tricky. You took part in 2020, the lockdown year. Did you do that? Yeah,
I did. And it was quite a nice distraction from lockdown. Oh, I can think about my outfits to wear in my house. But yeah. But I think, again, at that time, I took some more photos, but I think they were just, like in my hallway mirror, and like I probably cut my head off, it was still at that stage. Yeah, it was quite fun that year because I realised that I kind of had developed this lockdown colour palette, which was like pink and black and white and grey.
Oh, really? Interesting. Wow. Perfect capsule wardrobe.
Yeah. So I think that year I had like more me mades, but still not as many. And I definitely realised that year, oh, actually, I've got lots of like fancy clothes or like things that are really dressy, but like, everyday clothes, they were really lacking. Like I didn't have that many. So I think that was quite a nice impetus to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm going to try making some of these things. Like I'm going to make more T-shirts and I'm going to make loungewear or whatever. Yeah. I think what always is quite nice is realising that these are the gaps in my wardrobe, and then being able to like go on Instagram or whatever, and then you see, oh, look, those people have made they made their underwear or they've made whatever, and then you get like really inspired and you're like, oh, this is cool, like I can do this.
Yeah, I feel like that year I really didn't know what to do about 2020 because it felt like the world had just broken, hadn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure people don't need this right now, but I was like, you know what? Maybe some people would like it. Yeah. So I kind of tentatively put it out because I was really thinking like, should I just zoop about this whole thing? And then I was like, no, I'm going to put it there and just be like, very much like, please be very gentle and kind with yourself. Only do this if you want. And I think it ended up being quite a positive thing for a lot of people.
Definitely.
Especially the community aspect. I really felt like I was stuck in a tiny box.
Yeah.
With only people I'm related to. And it was nice to know, out there's other people.
Yeah, for sure. I think, that's really true, actually. And it's because it's become such an international challenge as well. It was just really nice to kind of to connect to people like around the world.
So much. Oh, yeah. And along that vein, how do you feel about the representation of makers of colour within the Me Made May community, or perhaps within the kind of sewing community more generally? Do you feel it is like a safe, inclusive, inviting place?
Yeah, I think 2020 was definitely like a turning point because I think, because, like we had Me Made May and then like George Floyd was like, just after that. And then there was all the Black Lives Matter like coming to the forefront. And I think through all of that, it was really interesting to see how like the sewing community reacted.
Right.
And I think maybe before it wasn't even something that I really thought about that much. Like that Instagram was feeding me like, oh, here's some nice white, cisgendered, able-bodied women. Like, you're used to receiving those messages, like you don't always question it. So, it was only after that I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, why don't I post pictures of myself? I'm a maker. I'm Black. I should be showing people, oh, look, Black people make things too.
Interesting. So for you, it raised questions also of the way that you are using these platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you can't always expect other people to do these things. So it's like I kind of took that upon myself and went, oh, okay, like I should be representing myself in this space as well. And, just to get more people out there and to encourage other people to.
Yeah.
As well.
Brilliant. So no pressure. Are you or are you not planning on taking part in Me May Make this year?
I think I definitely will. I've really enjoyed doing it the past 3 years. For me, I think because now my Instagram is quite a lot about like outfits, I think I probably will post like outfit photos, but I'm not going to do it every day.
Yeah, your outfit posts are so inspiring. Like the way you put garments together, or it's like making notes, like, what's she done there? What's she done there? How's she layered that? That's so genius. So, I know that your feed will be a massive source of inspiration. So I am on a very selfish level, very pleased that you are going to be taking part this year. Thank you so much for talking to me, Rebecca. And I cannot wait to follow along with your challenge. You're a star.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Meg, thank you so much for chit-chatting with me again. So you are a Me Made May veteran, are you not?
I am, which I absolutely love Me Made May. It's my favorite thing. I plan all year for it, to be honest.
Oh, amazing. Can you remember when you first heard about it or how many you've taken part in at this point?
So I deleted my blog a couple years ago, but I shared the link on Facebook. So I did like a Facebook deep dive and apparently the first time I participated was 2012.
Whoa.
As far as I can tell, that was the first year that I participated. It was 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
How have your pledges changed or evolved over the years? Like, have you stuck to the same pledge, or can you remember what your early ones were?
Well, from what I can tell, my first pledges were right when I was really prolifically sewing.
Right.
When I was part of like the Sew Weekly. And so I was making an outfit a week. And so I had a lot of things to wear. So my first couple pledges were, I'm only going to wear things I've made, aside of like under goodies and coats. Well, no, I included coats for the first couple of years. Like,
did you?
I did, which was rough. Because
you live in Chicago.
Because I live in Chicago. Because it snows in May, and I had a raincoat I made from a shower curtain. I would wear that, which was great at keeping off the wet, but like putting layers underneath it. And like eventually I ran out of layers I had sewn, right?
Bless you. I love your commitment.
I was like, I am in this. But eventually I think that's part of why I really got into knitting was like, I was like, I can have more me-made things. And I can be warm during May. So that's how it started. And then as my style kind of developed, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to wear mostly me-made. I'm going to wear at least 2 things or 3 things or everything but XYZ. And that is kind of where I've landed in the last couple of years.
Nice.
I would love to get back to wearing just me-made, but also... So I went to Catholic school for 12 years and wore a uniform for 12 years. And so I'm still trying to figure out what my style is. So Me Made May is really a good time for me to figure out what am I most comfortable in? What are my power outfits? And making things in that direction. So yeah, even though it's been like 20 years since I graduated high school, I'm still like, I'm still trying to figure out what's the best thing for me. And so as years come and go, I'll give away, I don't need this many knit dresses. I don't really wear them. So I gave them to a teacher friend who wears them all the time.
Awesome.
But every year when Me May rolls around, I'm like, I need more bottoms. Every year I'm like, I need more bottoms. Why don't I make more bottoms? And the truth is because I'm scared. Because especially during the pandemic, like my size has fluctuated. My level of activity has fluctuated. I don't want to wear hard pants if I'm working from home all the time.
No. Hard pants. I love that.
But now that things are opening up and I'm required to travel for my job and like I'm traveling in May, I'm like, I want to be able to take a me-made wardrobe with me on the road. And so what does that look like? I need to make blazers. I need to make professional pants. I need to make blouses. And so every year I feel like Me Made May is kind of my motivation to sew. I'm like, I need more pants. Every year I say I need more pants. Or I'm sorry, trousers. No,
I love it. It's like I can do the translation in my head. So, that's so interesting. So it sounds like Me Made May it gives you the opportunity to focus on like where you're at, both in your kind of lifestyle requirements and in your wardrobe requirements and where you want to be going, you know, how you want to be expressing yourself.
Yeah. It gives me that boost in every year. And I know every year when you post about it, you're like, no, I'm not telling you to make things for Me Made May. And every year I'm like, Zoe, you know, I'm going to make things. Like every year to myself. I never say that, but I'm like every year. Okay. I already have my making list for Me Made May. Like I'm working on it.
No, okay. And what I really want to address, because when I say that, what I'm meaning is because I don't want people to think that they can't participate in whatever stage they're at right now. Because I don't want people that have got maybe they've just started sewing or knitting or crocheting on it and they've got maybe like 5 things. I don't want them thinking, I can't take part. I don't have enough things. And I don't want them then panic making like a load of t-shirts if maybe they don't need t-shirts. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to encourage panic making. Panic anything isn't fun, is it? It's not fun.
No, I totally agree with that. It's I use it kind of as my motivation for the whole year. I'm like, I really would like to make a pair of ginger jeans.
Yes.
Here's my motivation to finally do it. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you know it's going to be of benefit to your wardrobe. It's not a panic thing.
Right. It's like every year I'm like, I need more pants. I need more pants that are comfortable that I don't dread putting on every day.
Yes. So what do you think have been the benefits for you for taking part in Me Made May?
I really love, one, meeting all the other people who are doing Me Made May. I absolutely love when the hashtag, it's time to follow it. And there's so many other people who I haven't heard of, and they have great outfits, and I save their outfits as outfit inspiration and sewing inspiration for the rest of the year. And I absolutely love seeing how people interact. And there's a lot of folks who have really beautiful stylized photos, and I love those. And people who are just like, this is my outfit today. It's very candid. They're like, I'm having a day. I haven't had my coffee, but here's my outfit. And I'm like, yes, I love you too. I love seeing all the different ways people have styling things. I'm really into the Zadie jumpsuits. Yeah. So I really love how people style those in 1,000 different ways with like shirts under them. And I was like, oh, that's like, it's just brilliant seeing what people come up with. So that's number one. Like, I love it. I also love seeing what I'm most comfortable in and how I get through spring, which is my least favorite season, dressing. Because the weather fluctuates here so much. It can be 70 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny, and the next day it's snowing. And it's just, no, I hate it.
So sometimes it's a good month for you because you do get to access your wardrobe.
I access my entire wardrobe. Yeah. And so I'm like, what do I like to wear? And are there things I can make to make this month and spring easier on me? Because I find that spring is most stressful for me to dress because you don't know what's going to happen during the course of the day. Yeah. And you end up having to change outfits 3 or 4 times. So you really know what works and what doesn't work by the end of the month.
Yeah, you've tested every combination.
You really have. And so you're experimenting with style and you're like, maybe this doesn't work. Or, oh, I didn't expect that to work. Maybe I don't hate cropped things. So I really love it for those 2 things. 1, meeting other people, and 2, establishing what my style is through the month, through the season that I like the least.
Don't you think it's interesting as well, watching people's documentation photos kind of pop up? Because when certain patterns get released, there's almost like a wash of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, isn't it? What actually is working in real people's lives, what has stood the test of time. It's not just that new pattern energy, you know?
Yeah. And I really, truly think that is the case, because I've made probably hundreds of garments at this point, and most of them have gone the way of other people and clothing swaps. I still have the first skirt I made.
Really?
And I wear it all the time. It's made out of purple bed sheets. It is a pleated skirt. I love it. It's comfortable. It's cotton. It breathes. And I wear it all the time. But yeah, you're like, this is something that came out probably 2011. Is when I made this skirt. But you see these patterns come and go in waves, and then you're like, okay, a few years later, are people still making that pattern?
Yeah.
Are people still wearing that pattern even?
Yeah.
Has it found a place in their wardrobe, their closets, their everyday fashion sense?
Yeah. And I love as well seeing people's choices of fabric, because often people are using fabrics you hadn't thought of and thinking, okay, that makes it more seasonally appropriate for this or that. And I hadn't thought of it. And you say wearing it, layering it. I'm not very good at layering. So I'm like with the magnifying glass, like, what are they doing with this? How are they making this work?
Before the pandemic, I would go to the office on the days when I was working in the office, and I would be in there at 6:30 in the morning because I didn't want to deal with crowd on the train. So I'd be in the office at 6:30 and I'd leave it like after rush hour. So I was in there all day. That is not my life anymore. And that woman is never coming back.
Good.
She is never coming back.
You did not have a good balance.
Yeah, no. But those outfits are also never coming back. Right. So it's looking at, what is my fashion right now? Like, what is my style right now? And working through that is very useful during May.
Fantastic. So what's your pledge going to be this year?
Oh, this year I'm going to attempt to wear 2 things me made every day. Awesome. So whether that's socks or a sweater or a dress with a sweater with it, I'm going to do 2 things a day. I really would like during the month to make those ginger jeans that I have had on my to make list for going on 3 years.
Okay. Permission to check in on you with that goal.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. Because I desperately need a pair of black jeans. Right. Mine have torn multiple times. I just took them on a trip this past weekend and they tore while I was on the road. And I was like, I did not bring any of my mending with me, like any of my mending supplies. And I really would like to make a coat. I have these beautiful coat wools. I've got 3 huge pieces of wool and I'm scared. You get nervous when you're like, this is really nice.
Yes. And it's such a lengthy project, isn't it? It's going to take so long. You're like, I need this to work out by the end. This is not a fly-by-night T-shirt that I can probably be like, fine, I'll just wear it as pajamas. This is, you're in for the long haul, aren't you?
Yeah. And also, I've got a beautiful piece of fabric that I wanted to make a blazer out of.
Yeah.
I want it to be a reversible blazer.
Oh.
And so, because the fabric on one side is pink with a gold lightning bolt, and on the other side it's gold with a pink lightning bolt. And I love it. I love it so much. But I'm like, I have to take special care to work with this. Like it needs to be exactly right because I have limited yardage.
That needs
and
to be
I don't want a lining. So these are the projects that in the next couple of years, like I always use May as this is what I want to make. And my goal is to make that blazer, not for this May, because I'm not emotionally ready, but next year.
I love that. I know exactly how you feel. I've been gearing myself up to the Vanazza 2-piece swimsuit.
Yeah.
I've been gearing myself up for about 3 years now.
You can do it. You can do it. Do you want to do it for this May?
Do you know what I'm doing it for? I'm going to have a wearable toile by mid-April.
Do you mind if I check in on you with that?
Because I'm going to Center Parks. Now, Center Parks is like a middle-class holiday camp, basically.
I love that.
And there's like a kind of fake tropical swimming pool thing. And like I don't like going swimming, and I've got a deadline basically, so it's going to happen. Yeah.
I love that. I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited for you.
I've got my supplies. I've got the elastic. I've got the lining. I'm good to go. But I have to finish my ginger jeans first.
Oh,
I'm so close. Yeah. Like I just bought some buttons and rivets. I just need to do the buttons, the rivets, the belt loops, and put the back pockets on, and then they're done. Because similarly, like I'm not even putting this in because we're just talking about it. But similarly, like I have got a couple of blouses that I haven't worn for 2 years. When my other jeans died, I literally haven't worn these blouses since because there's nothing that goes with them. So, yeah.
I have some denim material here that I bought when I was in South Korea in like 2014.
Yeah.
And it's dark blue denim and it's got white polka dots on it. And I love it. I'm obsessed with it. But it's so precious to me. And I want to make ginger jeans so badly, but I need to make sure the pattern is completely tested and it works for me and there's no issues. First. Yeah.
Can I ask you something? If someone was considering taking part in Me Made May, but perhaps they were a little unsure because maybe they haven't been making clothes for very long, what would you say to them?
I would say it's all about what you want to get out of it. If you want to pick a piece a week, like let's say you only have 4 pieces or 2 pieces, and you're like, this week I'm going to style 3 outfits around this piece. And it's maybe a skirt or a top, or it's a knitted scarf you made, or whatever. If you want to take that and see how many different ways you can dress up one piece in a week, that's a challenge. Yeah. That's actually really kind of like a capsule challenge. That works too. And
that would be so useful.
Yeah, it just shows you how to work with what you already have made and how to make it work in your closet as not just, oh, I made this at the moment and it's super trendy pattern, but how can you make it work for longer than just this moment? For the week after or the month after or next year, like making sure it still has a place in your wardrobe and in your closet.
I love that.
Right. You might be like, oh, I've styled it this way and it's really great, but what if I tied it at the bottom over a pair of jeans or popped the collar a little bit or rolled up the sleeves when I pair it with this sweater or this cardigan or however, even if you've made like a bum bag, how many different ways can you style that bum bag with outfits and how does it look? Like, that still counts as Me Made May.
Totally. And still so useful. I love it. Do you know, sometimes I wish I could go back to when I only had a few garments. Does this sound silly? Like, I wish I could go back and participate in Me Made May when I literally only had about 5 things. Yeah. And it would be such a different experience. And I think it'd be so illuminating and useful. And I wish that there was Me Made May when I was very first starting to sew, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like when I look back on the photos I was able to find from back in my first year, I'm like, I learned so much by looking at them. Like, oh, I was using the wrong fabrics or like I wasn't really caring about fit. I was just worrying about having something on my body. But now that I can worry about fit and think about fit and take my time making things, they last a little bit longer and you see them repeated year after year after year. So I think it's not so much about the quantity of the things that you have for the month, but like the quality. And if you've made 2 things and you've spent a lot of time on them and you worked really hard and they came out exactly the way you wanted, those 2 things can be enough to carry you the whole month.
Yeah, completely. And I kind of feel like when people are a bit stressing, they're like, oh, and they're kind of almost chastising themselves for not taking photos. It's like, you don't have to take photos, but maybe if you do want to, you take photos of that outfit where you felt great, because then you have that as a documentation of that feeling.
Yeah. Take a picture of your power outfits. And I've started doing that because I don't post a ton anymore on Instagram, but when, like I always do in May, the whole month is when I post like every day, because I use that kind of as, and for myself, when I go back every May, I go back and look at previous Mays and I'm like, okay, what did I really like wearing? What worked for me? So looking at how I styled what I had then, what sweaters I was wearing, I actually used the previous couple Mays. I went back and frogged a bunch of sweaters to reuse the yarn, because I was like, I went through this whole month of wearing sweaters and I never touched those. They never came out of the cedar chest. Yeah.
So it's not just documenting what you did wear, it's kind of documenting what you didn't wear as well.
Right. Kind of like when you go through your closet at the beginning of the year and then you turn the hangers around and you're like, okay, what actually got worn? Yeah, that's kind of how I use what's happening in my Me Made side. And also what I've done every year, and I've already started again this year, is I take all of the non-Me Made items out of the closet.
Yeah.
And then I just have the Me Made items there. And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm working with. Every day I got to wear one of these items.
Nice. I think my pledge is going to be the same as it has been for the last few years, which is all Me Made, but in a different combination each day. Because
I love it.
It really helps. It really helps me for the rest of the year, because it forces me to make some successful or not so successful combinations. And I just found it so useful, like you were saying, for the whole rest of the year.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so, so much.
Oh my God, this is great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!